Let's talk about Change Stars. This is a game that was sent to me by Diesel Shot and the people who worked on it a little whiles back, actually. Shortly after I received it and started working on putting together a review, I had an unfortunate life event sort of derail me for a bit. A friend of mine died. It happened, sadly. And then I got caught up in Gen Con prep and so on. So this is a little bit late in coming, but they did send me some lovely files for this game, and I thought I'd talk about it. Change Stars is a science fiction game that is intended to be somewhat more hopeful, less colonized, is certainly a term that a lot of people would use. Uh, it's intended to be much more friendly to uh, people who are from marginalized communities, whether it's LGBTQ plus or other communities on top of that. The world building of the world that they present is sort of deconstructing the sort of accepted structures that we have in our world to present this future where humanity is just one of many races and not actually the most important. And it's an interesting take on a science fiction setting for a role playing game. The setting and the vibe are very much indie and very much progressive. And honestly, I think that they're really interesting what they're doing there. I think they are making a legitimate attempt to make a game that is not using a lot of the traditional tropes that we associate with science fiction and adventure gaming and trying to make it something new and more welcoming. And I, I think that is definitely a goal that they had in mind and one that they come close to succeeding in. I think the world building, it's hard to deliver on the world building. It's hard to immerse somebody in that world because the more different you make it, the more difficulty people will have in placing themselves in that location. I think the game probably could have dealt with more fiction, um, sort of insert yourself in the world fiction, in much the same way certain other science fiction games do, like Shadowrun, Cyberpunk, um, even Star Trek. The Star Trek adventure game has a lot of in-world fiction to help you sort of place yourself in the world. I think Change Stars probably could have benefited from that because the setting is so new and different. It is harder, maybe for people who are not used to that kind of setting, to sort of place themselves in it. But the setting, world building, I think is really good, and I applaud them for that. The artwork is decent. Like, it's not going to compete with the artwork in like Starfinder or something like that, which had a lot of budget behind it for them to be able to afford all of that glorious artwork. But what they have is well used and well commissioned. I think it's a good looking book. Um, One of the things that surprised me, as indie and very directed as the world building is, the actual gameplay feels very OSR inspired. It really reminded me of like Star Frontiers or something like that. Star Frontiers is one of the classic science fiction games. It was produced by TSR back in the day, the people who made Dungeons and Dragons. And it was sort of a generic science fiction adventure game. But the change stars, the whole time I was reading the rules, it felt like I was reading a game from that era. It felt like I was reading an OSR style game. That's not a knock. A lot of people like OSR style games. And I think this game definitely borrows some of those sensibilities. I don't know if it was a deliberate choice, but it is absolutely there. I think there's something to be said for keeping the system fairly straightforward, fairly simple to understand. If you've ever played a video game, if you've ever played any other sort of more traditional role playing games, all of the rules paradigms here are going to be easy to embrace, easy to uh, grab onto. It's not as narrative focused as, say, a Cortex, a Cipher, a Fate, Powered by the Apocalypse. A lot of the narrative is just going to happen at the table rather than having systems that necessarily force a narrative in one direction or another. So, yeah, I think that's pretty good. Honestly, I would recommend this to people who are looking for a more OSR style role playing game, but don't want to deal with some of the baggage that comes with a lot of the OSR style role playing games. There are a lot of them are brilliant and very creative and very inclusive and so on. But there's also some that people embrace it because they want to keep the things that we got rid of in gaming. That's not the case here. Change Stars is absolutely leaning into a much more progressive view of the universe. It's just doing so with a rule system that would be very familiar to a lot of the old school gamers like me. So I think it's an interesting artifact of a game. Uh, I think people who come into it looking at the vibes might be confused why the rules isn't something like a Powered by the Apocalypse or something like that. But all things considered, I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. I would recommend it to people who are looking for something a little different on the science fiction front. You don't want to do the same old thing. This might be a good option for you to take a look at. It's by Diesel Shot. Definitely worth checking out. And yeah, that's my thoughts on Chain Stars. I hope people will go and check it out.